A day in the life of Jesus, imagining his daily routine. The sun was just beginning to rise over the hills of Galilee, casting soft golden light over the calm waters of the sea. In the early hours, a cool breeze swept through the town of Capernaum, where Jesus often stayed. As the world stirred awake, Jesus was already up, spending the quiet moments in prayer and solitude. He found peace in these early hours, lifting his heart to God, asking for strength and guidance for the day ahead. After his time in prayer, Jesus stepped out of the simple home where he stayed, greeted by the familiar scent of bread baking in nearby ovens. Villagers were beginning their routines, women drawing water from the well, children laughing as they ran through the dusty streets, and fishermen mending their nets. Jesus walked among them, greeting people with a smile, recognizing familiar faces from his journeys. Not long after, a few of his disciples, Peter, John, and Andrew, gathered around him, ready to accompany their teacher wherever he went. As they made their way through the town, people began to recognize him and joined them, eager to hear his teachings or seek healing, teaching and healing along the way. As Jesus walked along the narrow streets, a woman approached, carrying her small child wrapped in a shawl. The child was sick with a fever, and the mother's eyes were filled with desperation. "Master, can you help my son?" she asked, holding the child close to her chest. Jesus knelt, placing his hand gently on the child's forehead. With compassion in his voice, he whispered, "Be well." In moments, the fever faded, and the child opened his eyes. The mother wept with joy, thanking Jesus. Acts like these were common in his daily routine, healing the sick, comforting the brokenhearted, and offering hope. He never refused those who came to him, regardless of their status or background. From the poor and downtrodden to the rich and curious, Jesus welcomed all who sought him, seeing beyond their flaws and fears, sharing a message of hope by the sea. By mid-morning, the small group reached the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and as Jesus expected, a crowd had already gathered. Fishermen, merchants, and farmers sat under the sun, waiting to hear his words. Jesus climbed onto a small boat and pushed off slightly from the shore to speak to the people. A natural amphitheater formed by the water allowed his voice to carry. He began his teaching with a parable. "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field." He spoke of small beginnings leading to great things, encouraging the people to trust in God's plan, even when it seemed small or hidden. The crowd listened intently, some nodding in understanding, while others whispered to each other, trying to grasp the deeper meaning behind his words. Jesus often taught in parables, simple stories with profound lessons, because they engaged people's minds and hearts. He knew that not everyone would fully understand right away, but the stories planted seeds that could grow into faith over time. Rest and reflection with the disciples. After hours of teaching, Jesus and his disciples retreated to a quiet spot, away from the crowd, under the shade of olive trees. They sat together, breaking bread and sharing a simple meal of fish, olives, and bread. The disciples asked questions about the parable Jesus had just shared, eager to understand his deeper teachings. Jesus patiently explained, using these moments of rest to guide them further in their faith. The conversation often drifted to lighter topics, stories from their journeys, laughter over small mistakes, and moments of shared joy. Though their days were often tiring, filled with teaching, traveling, and healing, Jesus always found ways to connect with his disciples personally, nurturing their friendships and strengthening their spirits. Evening, serving in the villages. As the sun began to set, Jesus and his disciples continued their walk through nearby villages. In one of the homes, a group of people waited for him, hopeful for healing. Among them was an older man, blind for many years. With compassion, Jesus gently placed his hands over the man's eyes. "See again," he whispered, and the man opened his eyes, his vision restored. Cries of joy filled the room as the people rejoiced. Though Jesus had spent the entire day serving others, he never seemed burdened by the work. His love for people was endless, and his mission, to show them the way to God, gave him strength. It wasn't just the miracles that touched people's hearts, but his kindness, humility, and willingness to listen.